have been farming for over 7 years right here in Uganda. And I have visited and talked to so many farmers across Africa. They have very good crops, they get very good yields and harvests. They raise their animals and their animals, perform really well. They put on good weight, they lay eggs really nicely, but they still struggle, terribly struggle. And I want to tell you that the main reason that most farmers actually do struggle is not because of the market. It's not because of the weather. It's not even because of the government. It's neither of those things. I'm going to be telling you in this video what exactly the problem is. It's been a few years of me actually growing my farm, 7 years to be particular. And I've gone through a lot of these struggles that a lot of farmers actually go through, the difficulties that they go through, the things that they face. And I can boldly tell you that I have experienced them myself, and I know exactly what keeps African farmers poor. Yeah. And so by the end of this video, I'm also going to be sharing with you, you're going to realize what are some of the things that keep you still struggling. It doesn't matter what you keep going through, yeah, why your farm is still struggling up to this point, yeah, you'll be able to realize it and hopefully work it out so that you can get moving and actually get great results. Now, first of all, I'll first debunk some myths. What are some of the reasons people usually blame for their failure? Number one is the weather and the climate. So you'll find a lot of people saying that, my crops didn't do well because, the weather is really terrible in my area. I wish I was where you are. Yeah. And I'll tell you something interesting. You'll find a lot of farmers in the same exact place with the same exact weather performing completely different. Yeah. For me, for example, I do have a poultry farm, and you'll find other people in the same area with me with poultry farms, and their farms are failing. In fact, I do know someone who was raising birds, and I think a month ago or so, she called me and she was telling me that she wanted to sell her adult birds to me. These are birds that she was saying are like, I don't know, maybe like 30 weeks, 35 weeks. And she wanted to sell them to me because she couldn't manage to look after the bird. Now, we are in the same area, maybe 5 kilometers away from me. That's nothing, yeah? So, if we are getting the same exact weather, how can weather be the problem, yeah? So, of course, weather is not the problem, yeah? Another one is the government. They'll be like, our government doesn't support us enough. If only the government could support farmers enough. If only the government could help us and, put in place better systems. And it's true. Of course, there are times where the government could help. But then think about it. Yeah. For example, me, I'm in a system where I have never gotten direct support from the government. Now, of course, there's the indirect support, but there's direct support where I'm getting particular funding or particular help from government officials. I've never gotten anything like that. Yeah. But then you'll find people in the same exact country, and one is complaining about the government and the other one is growing. Yeah. None of them has ever interacted with the government. Yeah. So it's not about what help the government gives you and the policies. It's about how you personally utilize the policies that are available to actually ensure that you do get success. Yeah. And another one is the market. That's another excuse that people give themselves. They'll be like, there's no market for our products. There's no market for our produce. The prices are very low. I'll tell you something interesting. Yeah. It's not about the prices either. Yeah. It's about how you time the prices, how you interact with the prices, how you deal with the people who are actually buying from you. That actually does matter. Yeah. Because in reality, all the farmers are going to face the same prices at a particular time. Yeah. But what are your negotiating skills? How are you going to be dealing with the prices? How are you going to be dealing with, let's say, if it's middlemen? How are you going to be dealing with the buyers? How are you going to be dealing with the timing when it does come to pricing? Yeah. So those are the things that we give ourselves as excuses, but in reality, those three are never the problems. In fact, the problem is never usually outside of ourselves. It's because we don't want to face the truth, confront the truth. And the truth is that the problem is usually on our side. The problem is ourselves. So how do we prevent this from happening? Yeah, how do we prevent ourselves from having to deal with this problem if it is on our side? So reason number one is farming and not running a business. Is very common. A lot of people actually run farms. They don't run businesses. I don't know why it is farmers who are consistently doing this to themselves. Yeah. They don't think about the farm as an actual business. Yeah. They just think about, raising chickens. They think about growing maize, growing beans, growing whatsoever they grow. They don't think about the back end of the thing. Yeah. So they don't think about, for example, how to allocate prices properly. They don't think about, when to buy when the prices are much lower, timing their harvest to ensure that it coincides with the time when the prices are high. A lot of them, when they do harvest and they sell the product, they just utilize all the money for household use. Then when it reaches the next season, they actually don't have the money to plant again. So they're just there, they are confused, they don't know what to do. They literally just run it like, it's something subsistence, something for their home. They don't think about the capital. They don't think about reinvesting. Yeah. So if you're going to be running your farm just as a farm, raising chickens, raising cattle, and you don't think about it as a business, you don't think about how to set prices and how to, for example, cut middlemen out of the business, then it's going to become a problem. Yeah. Because when you think about it in the broader perspective, then you make more technical decisions. And these more technical decisions are the things that are going to influence or ensure that the business succeeds, that the farm succeeds, or that it fails. Reason number 2 is they sell to the wrong people and at the wrong time. That's another reason a lot of African farmers are actually failing. So a lot of farmers, when they do grow their crops, they harvest at the time when everyone is harvesting. And that means that the price is going to be very low. Now, of course, that can be understandable because sometimes because of the weather and you don't have irrigation, you don't have an alternative to harvesting because you must be going to all time at the same time. But then what are some of the things that you can do to prevent that from happening? Number 1, ensuring that you secure your buyers before you even plant. Yeah, you secure your buyers and you agree on prices. Some things you can do that. Now, that might not work for most things because a lot of people, again, are going to prefer to buy at the cheapest price. So even if we've agreed a price, if I haven't made a deposit or something like that, when the time comes for harvesting, if your prices are much higher, I'm going to go and buy from someone else. That is understandable. But the alternative is keeping your produce and selling it a little bit later on, or keeping whatever product that you're doing and selling it a little bit later on when the price has gone up. So if for you it is produce, it is, for example, it is maize that you're harvesting or beans. Yeah, keep them, invest in good storage. For me here, I have drums like this. This could actually be very good storage if you're doing beans. Yeah, a lot of people don't harvest too much. You'll find that the person has harvested 500 kilograms. Yeah, which they can honestly store really well if they invested in good storage. And that can ensure that, later on, when the prices go high, they can go on and sell it. But for them, they'll just have it and sell when everyone else is selling. And of course, that's going to ensure that their price keeps down. Yeah. Another thing that you can do is skip the middlemen if you can. Yeah. Because the middlemen, of course, are also looking to make a profit from you. So you need to make sure that you minimize dealing with middlemen as much as possible. If you can keep the middlemen out of the business, you have to do that. It's because a lot of farmers are lazy. Yeah, a lot of farmers are lazy. I've seen that happen a lot in my country. I've seen it happen a lot in my circles. Yeah, why people, don't pay attention. They don't want to work hard. They don't want to put in the effort to go and look for the market. And what they end up doing is that they just end up working for the middleman because they give all the money to the middleman and, they face the problem. Yeah, so you need to make sure that number 2, you pay attention to that. Avoid, dealing with middlemen. But number 3 is value addition. If you add value to whatever product that you're producing, the better it is. For example, if you're producing broiler chicken, if you're just going to be selling them as chickens on the market, you're going to be getting a much lower price. If you can get those chickens and then slaughter them and freeze them, of course, it's going to cost you a little bit having to freeze them, but then you can sell them at a much higher price, probably 50% in terms of price. If, for example, you're selling a chicken at 10,000 in terms of Ugandan shillings, you could easily sell it for 15,000 if you're going to be processing it and selling it yourself much later. Yeah. So you need to make sure that you do those things to ensure that your price goes much higher. That's treating it like a business. The third reason is spending what they should be reinvesting. You see, I've seen this happen and I've been guilty of this a few times myself. When you get a good harvest, or maybe you get a very good sale of your chickens or eggs, it's time to celebrate. You're like, oh my God, finally I made a profit. Finally I'm making proper money. It's time to reward myself. It's time to celebrate. That's such a terrible mindset, a very, very terrible mindset. Because whilst you're celebrating today, you need to remember that tomorrow you could be crying. Yeah, tomorrow could be a bad day. So you need to treat the business as something that's going to outlast you. It's not only for today, it's also for tomorrow and the other day. So what that means is that you need to consider the money that you're getting from the farm as some form of investment into the farm. Yeah. So these are some of the mistakes people usually make. Number one, social pressures. So someone finally makes money from the farm. They're like, oh, I started this farm so that I can be able to get myself the latest iPhone. So as soon as they make some profit from the farm, they're going to go over and get the latest iPhone. What a terrible decision. Yeah, your phone is already working, everything is still okay, and then you're like, I need to reward myself with the latest iPhone. That's like social pressure. You're getting social pressure from other people just because everyone has the latest iPhone. You're like, okay, I'll go get the latest iPhone because I've gotten a good harvest. Another one is wanting to upgrade your life. Yeah, so it's literally a premature upgrade in your life. You're like, okay, so I have this car, I have a 2005 model of the vehicle. Then you're like, oh, finally I've made some money. I think it's time for me to upgrade to the 2010 version or the 2022 version. And you're like, oh, you know, I've really worked so hard. It's time for me to upgrade. I mean, what's wrong with you delaying your upgrade? Yeah, it's like you're never going to upgrade, but there's a time for doing everything. Yeah, so you need to time this thing of you having to upgrade your life and your lifestyle just because you've gotten a very good harvest. Very, very terrible. It's going to keep you behind. And also, you'll spend what you're supposed to reinvest if you don't separate your personal and household money or finances from the business finances. And that's something that a lot of people actually do. And I was guilty of doing that too in the past, yeah? So if you don't separate the business finances and, you know, the cash flows and the sales and the expenses from your personal finances, 100%, all the money that's supposed to be reinvesting into the farm is going to get diverted. You're going to notice that, oh, I was supposed to feed my chickens and I've run out of money, because you use the money to pay school fees and tuition for your children. Of course, you're supposed to pay school fees and tuition for your children, but then you need to know where that money is going to be coming from, and it must be well planned and well budgeted so that the farm can also thrive. And then reason number 4 why a lot of African farmers fail is that they love to work alone. Yeah, they love to work alone, and yet they know too little. So working alone and knowing too little is one of the other biggest problems. Yeah, you need to understand that it is very, very difficult to thrive alone. Very, very difficult. Yeah, you need to get wisdom and knowledge from people who have gone ahead of you. You also need to get wisdom and knowledge from other people who are having different experiences. For me, for example, I keep interacting with, you know, farmers all around the world, especially since I do have, you know, an online training platform, the Farm Up Academy, where I interact, you know, with farmers, I train farmers, I build up farmers. But again, through these interactions with these farmers who are in the Farm Up Academy, I get to know experiences in different countries. I get to know experiences in different farms, even right here in my country. I get to know some of the challenges that they are having with their product, with selling their product, with building their systems, with doing all the things that they are doing. Yeah, and when I do get to understand that, then I can develop systems and ways of ensuring that, you know, the things can be done better and there is improvement. So you need to get knowledge, you need to get skills. Yeah, it is very, very difficult for you to thrive alone. It is very difficult for you to like make great leaps if you're doing everything alone. Yeah, and again, that's why I built the Farm Up Academy. So if that is you outside there, you want to start and grow a thriving farm, Farm Up Academy in the description of this video. Yeah, so you need to interact with other people, with successful people, so that you get to learn and understand how you can perform better. And then the last or the 5th point is a lot of farmers don't have a long-term vision. The thing about a long-term vision is that it's not like necessarily your long-term vision is your fixed vision of what's going to happen in the future, but it gives you a goal and a reason to work towards a particular direction, and that usually ensures that you even thrive much better than you expected. Yeah, so if you don't have a long-term vision, you don't have anything that you're working towards, then most probably when you do make money, you're going to spend it. You're not going to develop systems. You're not going to build like good structures that you can utilize for a long term. You're not going to get like a proper management system at the farm that will ensure that even in your absence, for example, the farm can thrive and the farm can run very well. You're not going to think of a proper succession structure, maybe just in case, you know, you want to pass on the farm maybe to your family or other people whosoever. Those are things that you need to think about. Now, when you think about a long-term strategic plan, then it becomes much easier for you to run in business and actually have it grow and thrive. Yeah, so you need to have a proper long-term vision and plan. Yeah, now let me know in the comment section below which of these 5 points is the one that has been affecting your farm the most, because I'm very certain at least one of these is probably something that has been involved in your farm and it's what's slowing and stopping the growth of your farm? I'm quite curious to know. Catch you very soon with another video. Lots of love. Bye-bye.